Tasting is impossible. Only the record remains. Ansault Pear. The Ansault Pear was, by every account, left behind by the people who ate it, the finest pear that ever existed. First cultivated in France in 1863, it was described in agricultural records with a reverence unusual for any food. U.P. Hedrick, in his 1921 study, The Pears of New York, wrote that its flesh was notably buttery, rather better than that of any other pear, with a rich, sweet flavor and distinct but delicate perfume. Not better than most pears, better than any other pear. A fruit that inspired that level of language in a government agricultural report was doing something genuinely extraordinary. The problem was commercial. Ansault pear trees were irregular growers, inconsistent and unpredictable, producing fruit with an irregular form that made commercial orchards uninterested. As industrial farming consolidated around reliable, uniform, shippable varieties, Bartlett, Bosque, Anjou, the Ansault stopped being planted. No commercial interest meant no nursery stock. No nursery stock meant no new trees. By the early 20th century, it was gone, confirmed extinct before most people realized it had been in danger. What remains is only the description: buttery, sweet, delicately perfumed, better than anything that replaced it. You can read those words. You cannot taste what they were written about.
Taliaferro Apple. The Taliaferro apple has the most powerful endorsement in American horticultural history. Thomas Jefferson called it the best cider apple existing, producing a cider more like wine than any liquor he had ever tasted that was not wine. Jefferson planted nearly 100 trees of it in a dedicated section of his South Orchard at Monticello, which tells you more about his conviction than anything he wrote. The apple was small, roughly the size of a grape shot, white with red streaks, and not considered a table apple. Its power was entirely in its juice, so complex and refined when fermented that a man who had tasted the wines of France reached for wine as the closest comparison he knew. The trees at Monticello are long gone. No reliable description of the fruit's full character was ever recorded. Apple hunters have searched old Virginia orchards for decades, bringing forward candidates without definitive confirmation. It may be extinct. It may survive on a hillside farm somewhere in Appalachia, unidentified and unrecognized. Jefferson's words make the uncertainty feel like a loss either way.
Judean Date Palm. The Judean date palm was the dominant date variety in the ancient Middle East for thousands of years. Ancient writers praised it as the finest date in the known world. Sweeter, larger, its honey considered particularly pure. It appeared on coins during the Second Temple period and was central enough to the region's identity that losing it amounted to losing a piece of the landscape itself. Climate change gradually dried the lands it required, and by the medieval period, the variety had disappeared. Then, in 2005, botanists at the Arava Institute in Israel germinated a seed recovered from an archaeological site at Masada, a seed dormant for approximately 2,000 years. The resulting tree, named Methuselah, grew successfully and eventually produced pollen. Scientists have since sprouted several more ancient seeds, including female plants capable of bearing fruit. The dates produced have been described as drier and more complex than modern commercial varieties, with a flavor unlike anything currently available. A fruit that was extinct is slowly, improbably, being brought back by seeds that outlasted the civilization that cultivated them. Jamaican Guava. The Jamaican Guava, Psidium dumatorum, was a wild guava species found only in Jamaica's interior, last confirmed in 1976 in Clarendon Parish. No plants have been found since. Unlike most entries on this list, the Jamaican guava leaves behind almost no sensory record, no agricultural reports about its flavor, no letters from admirers, no descriptions of what made it distinct from other guava species. Its extinction was quiet in a different way. Not a celebrated fruit that was mourned, but an unremarkable wild species that disappeared before anyone thought to study it carefully. What was lost wasn't a famous flavor, but an irreplaceable piece of biological diversity. A unique genome adapted over millennia to its specific island environment, carrying genetic information about disease resistance, climate tolerance, and flavor possibilities that guava breeders will never be able to access. The Jamaican guava is a reminder that most extinctions don't come with eulogies. The loss happens quietly, and by the time anyone notices, there's nothing left to document. Muurays Plum. Muurays Plum, Prunus murrayana, was a wild plum species found only in the Edwards Plateau and Trans-Pecos regions of Texas. A thorny shrub reaching 17 feet tall, with white flowers and small red plums dotted with white. It was discovered in 1928 and never reliably seen again.
No confirmed wild specimens have been located in recent surveys, and it exists now only in herbarium collections. Pressed samples of a plant nobody living has seen growing. Unlike the Ansault Pear or the Taliaferro Apple, Muurays Plum was never part of anyone's orchard, never praised in a journal, never eaten by anyone famous. It was a wild plant at the edge of a harsh landscape, existing on the specific ecological terms of a specific place. Those terms changed, or it ran out of time, or both. The white dots on the red plums that someone observed in 1928 were the last close look anyone got. Whether those plums tasted remarkable or ordinary is a question that can no longer be answered. That's the hardest kind of loss to measure. Not the flavor of a celebrated fruit, but one that nobody got around to describing before it was gone.
Madagascar banana. The Madagascar banana, Musa perrieri, is critically endangered and functionally extinct in the wild. It matters not because it was ever eaten widely, but because of what it could mean for the banana most of the world eats every day. The Cavendish dominates global banana production so completely that it's a dangerous monoculture. Tropical race 4, a soil fungus currently spreading through plantations worldwide, could do to the Cavendish what Panama disease did to its predecessor, the Gros Michel, in the 1950s. Wild banana relatives like the Madagascar banana carry genetic diversity that could provide resistance. Natural defenses developed over millions of years. Deforestation in Madagascar has destroyed nearly all the original habitat, and the plant now exists in only the most marginal fragments of remaining forest, if at all. Scientists are working to collect genetic material before the last specimens disappear. The Madagascar banana will likely never appear on a fruit stand. Its value is as a repository of information. The accumulated genetic memory of a lineage navigating the same threats in different form since long before humans started farming. Losing it would be like burning a library that hasn't been read yet. Silphium. Silphium was the most important flavoring in the ancient world, and we ate it into extinction. The plant grew along a narrow coastal strip near the Greek colony of Cyrene in what is now Libya, roughly 125 miles long and 35 miles wide, and nowhere else on Earth. Every attempt to cultivate it outside that zone failed. It tasted like a combination of asafoetida and celery root, deep and savory, and the Romans used it on everything. They valued it so highly the Senate kept a reserve in the treasury alongside gold and silver. Demand was enormous, and the supply was fixed to a single strip of coastline. The overgrazing and overharvesting that came with Roman appetite did what no deliberate destruction could. The plant simply ran out. Pliny the Elder recorded that only one stalk was found in his lifetime, sent as a curiosity to Emperor Nero. That was the last confirmed specimen. No seeds were preserved. No cuttings survived. The flavor that defined the cuisine of the most powerful civilization in the ancient world vanished so completely that we cannot identify with certainty what plant it even was. Silphium is gone, and it took its taste with it so thoroughly that we cannot even approximate the loss. Kalimantan Mango. The Kalimantan mango was endemic to the rainforests of Borneo and is now considered extinct in the wild. Borneo contains some of the oldest and most biodiverse rainforest on Earth, a landscape that developed in relative isolation for millions of years, producing species found nowhere else. The Kalimantan mango was one of dozens of wild mango relatives on the island, distinct from anything in commercial markets, carrying its own flavor profile and genetic makeup accumulated across centuries of adaptation to the Bornean interior. Deforestation in Kalimantan, driven by palm oil expansion, logging, and agricultural conversion, has reduced wild habitats dramatically. The fruit was never widely eaten or commercially cultivated, which means it left behind no record of its flavor and no famous admirers. It existed, it was documented, and then the forest around it disappeared faster than anyone could intervene. What was lost was not just one mango, but a genetic lineage unique to one place on Earth. A combination of traits, resistances, and flavors that existed nowhere else and now exists nowhere at all.